my most recent U2 experience, which was, a couple of years ago, but when they were doing the Joshua Tree tour, Ken Ehrlich asked me to go to New Orleans and in the Superdome backstage interview them for a 60th anniversary Grammy special or something like that. And it was amazing because I do think Bono is the most charming man. It's like Morrissey, who sang This Charming Man, is the least charming man in the world. Yeah. The most charming man is Bono, which, by the way, it always interests me that like the charm hasn't necessarily transferred to the next generation. Like to see YouTube piss people off or some people not like Bono, I'm fascinated with that because to me, I don't get it. Like he's, I think it's funny that people are still mad. Like, why did you give me that free album? It's like, that's always been a very odd thing to me. It's like, I was desperate for free albums. So
they'll never experience our struggle.
Yeah, that generation.
But Bono we're doing the interview. And then as we're sort of wrapping up, he goes, David, you wrote the liner notes for Sinatra for duets, didn't you? And I went, yeah. And cause he was on that record. And he goes, would you ever want to go out sometime and have a drink and just talk about Frank? And I did have the presence of mind to say, do you think anyone would ever say no to that question? It's like, but I appreciate how charmingly you made it seem like there was an issue that I might not want to do that. And by the way, it's 4 or 5 years later.
Yeah,
I have not gotten the call
still waiting for that
drink. Exactly.
Where's that Guinness?
I mean, you could call him, right? You can say, hey, where are we going to have a drink?
I'm shy. I'm very shy.
I was in Ireland this year and I was at a bar, and actually one of the first questions I asked like a random guy was, what do you think of Bono? And it was not, Bono's a cunt. I think it's because he's left the country.
By the way, I had that discussion with him, which is interesting because we were talking about doing a segment. This is many years ago, but something about Ireland. And he said to me something which, again, it's like where you don't know what you don't know. He goes, David, you have no idea how complex the issue of Ireland is with me.
Yeah.
Like he goes, and that's, I think a lot of it is, these are guys who have, gone out into the world, it's like, and, that's charming to us to have one of, but I guess it's not charming to everybody in Ireland. But yeah, that said, I'm with Holly. I'm in love with Bono.
Yeah.
I just love, and he's a great storyteller. I mean, he's a great, songwriter and a great performer, but he's such a great storyteller. I mean, the stuff that he talked about his dad, and I loved him talking about Allie, his wife, who was at both shows where we were.
No, I have not run into her in years, but years ago I did a show. I remember it was at the, where the Oscars are, at that theater when that was built. And I was probably just married or not, or almost about to be married. But I thought at one point this woman walked up to talk to me. I thought she was the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. And she was bright. And then I realized it was his wife. And one thing I've always loved about him is the way he talks about his wife, because he always talks about, she was the smartest girl in my class. Mm-hmm. And I always just think like, if you start with that, like if you start, that's like, I find that incredibly charming that's how he always talks about her, is like, she was the brightest girl. Well, also the hottest. Very conveniently, she was beyond beautiful.
Wow. He did mention how Allie and Edge were both smart. Dave at the time were both smarter than him. Were both at the top of their class, and he was,
Edge seems like the nicest guy. I also interviewed him at that at the Superdome that day, but and I proudly share my selfies with him regularly. But the Edge, the name The Edge is to me the funniest name in all. It's just giving yourself a name with It's like there's no, I don't know, and it was Bono Vox, right? Like
right.
We sort of all forgotten, tried to look away from the Vox part of it, which makes it douchey. Like Bono Vox.
It was a given. I mean, did he talk about at the show how he got the nickname? Because it was a friend who used to give everyone names.
Yeah, he did. He did. I was just thinking about he talked a little bit about the band, about each band member a little bit, like, and we took my son, we saw it here, just my husband and I, and we were in Paris last week and we saw it there. And we took my son.
You're so jealous of my lifestyle. I wasn't going to Paris.
I wasn't in Australia for actual
talking to Jeff Bridges.
But we took my son. My son is studying in France, and he met us there. And we asked him if he'd be interested. He's never been. We've exposed them to U2, but they've not embraced even Joshua Tree. They like it enough, but they haven't really embraced it. But when we suggested, we said, would you like to see this with us? And we told him a little bit about it. He said, yeah, that sounds really great. He was really interested in, the ways that Bono talked about the band and, meeting them and just a little bit about their personalities. So he did. He talked about them he just painted such a great picture. I could go on about Bono, but he just paints such a great picture.
Oh yeah. He's